I want to ask you something, and I want you to actually think of the answer. What do you feel behind on in life? You probably don't have to think about it too hard because you most likely already know. It probably came to mind immediately. And that's okay. Pretty much everyone's got at least one thing, whether it be a house, a relationship, a career thing, a savings goal, your dream body, having a baby, a version of your life that was supposed to have arrived by now and hasn't. And here's the part I find so interesting. You know the exact deadline that you missed. Like specifically, 31 for this, 35 for that, 40 for the other. You could say the number out loud right now without even having to think about it. So let me ask you a second question. And this one is the one that really got to me. Who set that number? Where did that number come from? Who actually decided it? Who decided the timeline that you were supposed to reach a specific goal by? Did someone sit you down at some point and go, okay, here's the schedule, initial here? Well, no, nobody did. You absorbed it from your mother, from your friends, Instagram, and from all the movies we watched, starting with Disney when we were toddlers. From whatever your cousins or siblings were doing when they were 28, and then you started grading yourself against it like it was real. So today, I want to make a case for something. You're not behind. There's nothing wrong with your pace. You are standing next to a ruler that somebody else built for a life that isn't yours, and you're reading your own life off of it and coming up short. But if you change the ruler, the whole thing looks different. Hey, loves, welcome back to the Perfect Sunday podcast for the women who are done playing small and ready to become the main character of their own life. I'm not an expert. I'm a woman who pays attention, and what I keep noticing is that the thing standing between you and the life you want usually isn't the situation, it's the frame that you're seeing it through. So that's what we do here. We change the frame, so let's get into it. But first, this week's Sunday obsession. So I know I always say that I'm a puffy girl in the morning. Always have been. Hashimoto's means that I probably always will be. It is what it is. But it means that I know a thing or two about depuffing. And with school starting back this week and the alarms going back to 5:30 a.m. wake-ups, the puffy eyes are an even bigger thing. So this week's Sunday obsession is my favorite eye combo, which is the caffeine solution from The Ordinary and the BIODANCE Hydrogel eye patches. The caffeine in the serum helps by narrowing the capillaries to stop fluid from pooling into the surrounding tissue, your under eyes, and then the body reabsorbs the trapped moisture that causes the puffiness and the eye bags. That's the serum. Then the eye patches have some texture to them, which helps them stay put. So I can go about my morning making breakfasts, lunches, and taking the dog out for walks without worrying about them sliding down my face. And then by the time I walk out the door, my eyes are beautifully hydrated and depuffed. Now, I do absolutely feel the need to say that I am not trying to make a case for throwing out all of your goals or that having goals are bad. I think that we should all have goals in life. I, for one, am a very goal orientated person. And if I don't have something that I feel like I'm working towards, even if it's just something small, I feel kind of lost and I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing with my life. But they should always be goals that you're setting for yourself because they are important and meaningful to you. And they shouldn't be on the timeline that someone else is setting for you. And that may take some sitting with and actually separating all of these things out. Now, real quick, my usual disclaimer, I'm not a therapist or a life coach. Everything in this episode is just what I have observed and learned and what has worked for me. I hope that it is helpful to you too, but please take what is useful and leave the rest, okay? Let's get into it. So, not long ago, really in the more recent past, I had to sit with myself and sort out some feelings about where I currently am in life. I did things the opposite of most of my friends and the people that I know. I got married right out of high school. I had my daughter before I turned 20. I had the marriage, the family, the big house, the fancy cars. My daughter graduated high school before most of my friends ever had their first baby. While I was entrenched in family life, they were continuing in school and figuring out their career paths. And then after almost 20 years of that, I got divorced. And now, while my friends are chasing toddlers and trying to navigate the terrible twos, I'm thinking about what I want to focus my attention on career wise. We literally just flipped the script. And then I started feeling down and beating myself up because I was thinking too much about where I thought I should be career wise at this point in my life. And what I learned from this is the danger of comparing one person's timeline against another. We all have our own path, and what works for one woman isn't necessarily going to be what works for another, especially because there is no version of a timeline that accounts for life happening in unexpected ways. There's no life plan anywhere that has a line item for divorce and start over at 35, or drop everything you're doing and spend the next 3 years being a caretaker for a sick loved one, or being the person who holds everyone else down while you're all going through the worst moments of your life. That's never on the schedule. But that is the kind of stuff that life can and does throw at you. And so if I judged my life by which milestones I had reached by a certain age, so many of those years would be considered a complete loss. I produced nothing. I built nothing. On paper, at least, I fell years behind. But that's just not what actually happened. What actually happened is that I found out exactly who I am under pressure. I learned how to hold a household together when I was running on empty. I got to be there, fully there for Matt and to grieve my dad and my sister while still being there for my kids and my friends when they needed me. And I wouldn't trade that for whatever milestones I should have been hitting instead, not for anything in the world. And it's also, if I'm being completely honest, where basically everything I say on this show came from. There's no version of me who does this podcast without those years, without those life experiences. Who I am today would simply not exist. So then, which one is it? Was I behind, or was I doing the most important work of my life? And the answer, obviously, is that it entirely depends on what you're measuring with. It's the same years, the same woman, two completely different verdicts, and the only variable is the ruler. Okay, so let's talk about where this timeline came from, because it's worth knowing that it has an author, and the author is not you. Some of it, simply put, is just your mother's life. Whatever age she was when she had you, when she got married, when she bought the house. I'm not saying it was done intentionally, but some of those numbers got installed in you without you even realizing it. And they were set by an economy and a world that does not exist anymore, like at all. But your gut still runs on them. Some of it's movies and television, which is almost funny because when you think about it, we absorbed the pacing of a life well lived from stories that had to fit in a 2-hour time block. Everything resolved and scheduled because the script demanded it. And then we walk around expecting our actual lives to hit beats the same way. Some of it's whatever your friend group happened to be doing at whatever age, which is completely arbitrary. It's a handful of people in one place at one time, and somehow their pace became the standard you grade yourself against. And a lot of it now is just what we see on our feed, which is the worst one, and we can get into that. But here's what I want to point out about all of it. Every single one of those sources is accidental. Not one of them was designed specifically for you. There was no evaluation of your circumstances, no accounting for what you've been through, no thought whatsoever about what would actually be a good life for you specifically. And then here's what we do with that. We treat it like a contract, like there is a document somewhere with our signature on it, and if we veer off track, then we are now in breach. So I want you to try something, and it's going to feel a little strange, but just take one of your behind items, the specific one that came up earlier when I asked you about it, and then ask yourself who said that you were supposed to be having a certain thing done or to be a certain place by a certain time? And keep asking yourself because there is no answer. There's no source. You'll trace it back and it goes nowhere. It just dissolves. It's a rule that you've been obeying and punishing yourself over, and it has no author and no authority, and it never did. Now, it's not just that the timeline is made up, it's that the evidence you're using to judge yourself against it is completely rigged. Here's what you're actually doing when you feel behind. You are taking your own life, all of it, every unglamorous hour, every boring Tuesday, the thing that you're dreading, the fights you had, the part of your body you don't like, the messages that you haven't answered, and you're comparing that whole unedited mess to a curated, selected, cropped, filtered result of somebody else's. It becomes you against a highlight, not you against her, you against someone's best 90 seconds. And I'm not trying to imply that anyone is being fake. It's just that nobody's posting the middle. Nobody's posting the debt behind the kitchen renovation. Nobody posts the part where they cried in the car. It's not lying, it's just editing. And you're comparing your uncut footage to someone else's final cut and going, wow, I am really behind in life. And it gets worse than that because you're not even comparing yourself to one person. You're comparing yourself to a composite. You're taking the woman with the great job and the one with the beautiful marriage and the one with the body and the one whose kids are thriving and the one with the house, and you're assembling them into one impossible woman who does not exist anywhere. And then you feel like you're losing to her. Of course, you're behind because you built an opponent that you are now trying to compete with, but they cannot be beaten because they're not real. And here's the ironic part. While you're busy comparing your life to someone else's, someone is doing the exact same thing to you. Somewhere there is a woman that's looking at you, at something you posted or something you said in passing, or just the general shape of your life from the outside. And she's thinking to herself about you that you have everything together, about the exact life that you're currently standing in, feeling like a mess. Both of you are wrong, and you're wrong in exactly the same way for exactly the same reasons. You're both using the outside of someone else's life as evidence about the inside of your own. That's not a reliable measurement. That's not a measurement at all, honestly. Now, I want to zoom in on a very specific phrase because I think that naming it changes something, and that's by now. I should have done this by now. I should be further by now. I should have figured this out by now. Those two words are doing something very sneaky, and here's what it is. By now takes an open question. Do I want this? Is it worth it? How would I go about it? And then it converts it into a verdict. So listen to the difference. I'd like to own a home is a goal. It's got energy in it, and you can do something with that. I should own a home by now is a failure. It's already finished. There's no move left to make. It's the same want, but one of them opens a door and one of them closes it. And the only difference is the deadline that you staple to it. And that's the actual cost of feeling behind. It's not the feeling is unpleasant, though it is. It's that it takes the things that you want and reclassifies them as things you've already failed at. And you don't pursue things that you've already failed at. Why would you? So the wanting quietly goes away and it takes the trying with it. I've watched this happen to women that I love, and I've done it to myself. Instead of thinking, I'd like to go back to school, the thought becomes that it's too late for me to go back to school, or I should have met someone by now. And once it flips into the past tense like that, the thing is basically over. Not because it was impossible, but because a made up timeline has passed, and so is your chance at the thing. So here's the swap, and it's small, but it does real work. Every time you catch a buy now, take it out and place it with I want. Instead of saying something like, I should have my finances together by now, start saying, I want my finances together. Or instead of I should be further in my career by now, just say, I want more from my work. Nothing about the situation changes. What does change is that the second version has a next step, and the first version just sits there costing you something. That's the frame change. It's honestly that small, and it's honestly that big. All right, here's the question that I think does the most damage when you finally ask it. And I mean damage in a good way. Take your behind list and go through it item by item and ask yourself honestly, do I actually want this? Or do I just want to not be the person who doesn't have it? Because those are wildly different things, and they feel identical from the inside. Imagine you got the big thing. Whatever it is that you feel is a big life goal, you got it tomorrow, but nobody ever found out. Nobody knows. There's no announcement, no post. Nobody in your family mentions it. No one is impressed. Do you still want the thing? If yes, good. That is a real want, and you should go after it. But if it kind of deflates you when you take the audience away, then what you wanted was to stop feeling behind on it. It's something you felt that you were supposed to have by a certain point, which isn't the same thing as actually wanting the thing. That's wanting to be caught up. And you can't ever get caught up because the timeline just adds a new line as soon as you clear one. Ask anyone who hit every single milestone on schedule whether or not they ever felt finished. They don't. There's always another milestone. It never ends. And I want to be careful here because I'm not saying that you should want less. I'm saying that half the stuff on the list isn't yours, but you've been carrying it anyways, which is exhausting. And it's also insulting to the things that you actually want, because now they're stuck in a queue behind a bunch of goals that you inherited from people whose lives you wouldn't trade for. And the timeline doesn't just tell you what to have, it decides what counts. And an enormous amount of what you've done doesn't appear on it anywhere. There's no milestone for getting yourself out of something that was hurting you. There's no age by which you're supposed to have become someone people can rely on. Nobody's asking whether your kids feel safe or whether you learned how to be alone or whether you're kind in situations where you have every right not to be. Nobody's tracking who you were during the worst years of your life. And those aren't small. And every single one of them is invisible on the ruler that you're using. So it's not just that you're not behind, it's that you've done a bunch of enormous stuff that the scoreboard doesn't even have a column for. Simply put, the scoreboard is broken and it's time to get a different one. Okay, I want to say something plainly, and I want you to really sit with it instead of just skimming past it. There is no late. It's not a real thing. It's just not a category that exists outside of our heads. I know how that sounds, but actually think about it. Late means that you missed a fixed appointment that somebody else set, and we've already established there's no appointments. So, what exactly are you late for? The only real thing, the only actual constraint in any of this is that you have a finite number of days and you don't know that number. That's all. And there's a trap that you can fall into here, which is that the years you spend feeling behind become the actual reason you fall behind. It's a closed loop. You feel it's too late to start, so you don't start. You put it off, and then more time passes, and then you fall even further behind. I lost years to that, not just to the divorce and to the grief, but to the story about what those years meant, to the running commentary about how far behind they'd put me. That commentary took more from me than any of those events combined ever did. So here's what I have landed on. You get to arrive whenever you arrive. Some things came early for you, and some things are coming late, and some are never coming at all. And some things you don't even know you want yet are going to show up in 10 years, and they're going to be the best part of your life. And that is not a scheduling failure. That's just what life is. It was never going to be a straight line. Nobody's has ever been. We just don't post the crooked parts. And can I just say, the women I find genuinely magnetic are almost never the ones who hit everything on schedule. They're the ones who took a strange route and are unbothered by it. There's something about a woman who has clearly stopped checking her progress against anybody else's, who is unafraid to pivot or start over entirely because she has trust in herself and she's not worried about measuring her progress against anyone else's. All right, so let's get to the practical part. This is how you're going to end the stress and worry of feeling like you're not where you're supposed to be in life yet. First thing you're going to do is write down everything you're feeling that you're behind on, everything that comes up. Okay? Now, I know that that might sound like a miserable exercise, but it's not, because if you don't actually name the things, you end up with this vague, depressing feeling that follows you around all day. When you get very specific and you put it out on paper, you can actually deal with it and the vague feeling starts to shrink. It's usually fewer things than it feels like. It sometimes feels like it's your entire life, but it usually ends up being less than 3 or 4 items. The second thing is to run each one through the nobody finds out about it test. Would you still want the thing if no one else ever knew? Then mark the real ones and cross the other ones off. And I want you to actually cross them off with a pen, because there's something about physically striking a thing out that is so satisfying, and your brain just takes it more seriously. I don't know if that's true, but I feel like it is. All right, number 3 is you're going to rewrite each item with an I want, because doing so requires a next step. And then actually take the smallest possible action on one item this week. Send one email, do one Google search, make one phone call. Just do one small little thing that can take less than 10 minutes. Not to fix it, but to convert it from a wish or a dream into an actual project. Fourth is to build your own list of what you think actually counts in life. Write down what makes a life good to you. Not what you think you're supposed to have, but what you'd genuinely be proud of on your last day on Earth. And then honestly look at how you're doing on your own list, not the borrowed one of things people and society have you feeling like you're supposed to be getting accomplished. Most women are doing dramatically better than they think as soon as they stop grading themselves on a rubric that they never chose. Keep your list and look at it whenever the feed or society starts to get to you. Next thing I would suggest you doing is a social media audit. If you're seeing someone living the life that you want, doing the things that you want to be doing, and you can actually be inspired by that, that is amazing and great, and keep doing that. But if you see their posts and it makes you feel bad or envious or depressed, just remove or block the account. Comparing your life to someone else's isn't doing you any good. It's best you just remove it from your mind and focus instead on what you are working towards. And lastly, notice when you're doing it in real time and name it. This is the one that keeps working long after any of these notebook exercises fades. When you catch the comparison happening, whether it be scrolling or at a party when someone mentions their news, just say it in your head. Okay, this is the wrong scoreboard. That's it. You're not arguing with the feeling or trying to talk yourself out of it. You're just labeling it. And naming it takes almost all the power out of it because the feeling was only ever working when you believed that it was accurate information. So here is your challenge for the week. Go ahead and write the behind list, all of it. Then go through it once and cross off everything that fails the test, everything that you would stop wanting if nobody else could ever find out about it. Whatever survives, that's your real list. Take the smallest possible action on one of the things before next Sunday. You don't need to make an entire plan. You just need to take one small action towards the thing. And all week, when you catch yourself thinking that everyone else is ahead of you, remind yourself that that's the old frame and that you're currently in a different life chapter. So, all of this is to say that there are no timelines that matter. The timelines that we think we're supposed to be following are all made up, either by ourselves or by someone else. And somewhere along the way of sorting through all of this, I figured out a little life hack that will make you so much happier, I promise. Stop worrying about what hasn't been done yet and instead focus on what's coming next. If you enjoyed this episode, please share it with another woman who you think would enjoy it too. And honestly, this one especially, because I know somebody in your life is quietly carrying this exact feeling right now. And if you haven't yet, please follow the show, leave a 5-star rating and a review. It helps the show grow, and I truly appreciate it. And come find me on Instagram at Monti_Wheeler. Say hi, ask any questions, or leave a comment. I always love hearing from you. Oh, and one more thing. We are now on YouTube at Purfect Sunday for those of you who prefer to watch a show. Come say hi, and I will talk to you next week. I love you so much.